Hello, friends. Warm welcome for the next episode of Ordinary to Extraordinary, LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live. Today we have our guest Ranjan Matthew joining us to share his journey, experiences, thoughts, so that it inspires us and it provides us some guidance on our own journeys. Ranjan, a veteran HR professional in the region, has been in UAE for quite some time. I remember interacting and meeting him in an industry academy event back in Abu Dhabi with Higher College of Technology. And at that time, he was with an organization called Viola. And it was that connection which led to this conversation today. I like to thank Ranjan for taking his time and joining us to share his perspectives and thoughts. So I will pass on the baton to Ranjan. Thank you, Ranjan, for accepting the invitation and joining me. So if you can just give a quick introduction to our audience, your quick journey, some experiences, then we will dive into the questions. How will you introduce Ranjan Matthew?
Thank you, Phoebe, for the opportunity, and thanks for taking me back many years to the time we met. Yeah, very serendipitous, I guess that meeting was. So Phoebe, yeah, as you said, I think you said it all. I'll try to keep it brief. I've been here in the region for a little over 15 years, and prior to that, I worked in HR in India for about 9 years. The journey has been a great one in the field of HR. I'd say I'd call myself, someone who would still like to be open to a lot of learning, an eternal optimist as I am. But yeah, that's just briefly about it. I'll leave. The show is yours, so I'll let you lead me with the other questions that you have.
Yeah. So thank you. So the first question which I like to share is, we all start as students as into the workplace. Quite often we have many youngsters who are now coming to the work field, and sometimes they feel, what am I doing? So I just want to ask the question, like, what are some of your inspirations? I see you started with a couple of organizations like Tata Administrative Services and as well as GE Healthcare. What was that starting journey like for you, if you go back to those old days?
Yes, yeah. A great question, Phoebe, to start with. I'd maybe try to combine it with what you said, especially with youngsters today when they get into the workplace and when, they feel a little lost. I was also, I mean, weren't we all, right? We started our journeys in career at a time when we were just fresh and bushy-tailed from college, wanting to conquer the world and knowing that, we just get it right from day one. But no, I mean, I'd say, see, so to start with, I started off trying to be an engineer, and I figured out that I would be the world's worst engineer, and hence I, tried to get into doing an MBA, and then through a lot of process of um, selection or deselection, you can say, and through a lot of coaching and guidance from our college, I realized that I might be a better fit in HR. Now, so I'd say, it is through a lot of mistakes and through some deselections that we try to find our groove. And I'd say, I've really, loved my journey thus far. Now, specifically, if you ask me about some of my inspirations, I'd say, again, I started my career as a copywriter, and I felt that I could connect with words, connect my thoughts to try to translate them to what it meant to a consumer. And I think it's that initial rub with industry that helped me to figure out, how I can further connect with people. And again, as I said, I got a chance to study HR, organizational behavior, uh, and a lot of those little bits and pieces in theory, which told me, okay, this seems to be inspiring enough for me to carry on. But as I said, I think it's only during your journey that you're able to really feel the excitement of, some of the good decisions that you have taken. So I guess that's just briefly how I can put it.
Yeah, maybe I just want to get a bit more on, like in a copywriting aspect, what happens?
Oh, that's what happens. Magic happens is all I can say for now. uh, no, but you want to be a bit more specific, as is it about
Y-
the process that you're asking about?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, as a youngster, people may not be understanding what copywriting is. So maybe you can just give a bit of that, and
Oh, sure, sure,
how it is applied in the business
sure,
life.
sure. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry, my apologies on that. So yeah, see, copywriting is basically a profession whereby you are writing creative copy, which is basically, as an example, a slogan or a piece of text for a brand, which you are communicating to a consumer, uh, and what we popularly call creating a call to action for that consumer to go and buy or subscribe to that product or service. So in terms, there's a start part of the process where you try to understand what a client or what the product or the brand wants to speak to the end customer. And it's the copywriter and, of course, a large part of an advertising agency, including art directors, creative strategists, that come together to create that messaging. But it's truly that copywriter that puts in those words as creatively and as straightforwardly as possible to the consumer, to ensure that that messaging of the brand is really solidified and concise, to get that consumer excited enough to go for it.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And maybe I'm just going out of the way to. I think this is something which, as a job aspirant, he or she has to also do. Am I right? As a potential employee from applying for a job, and what value that person can bring in. Will it be very helpful from a job aspirant perspective too, communicating through that skill?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, see, first, let's just say, just like not everyone can be the best tennis player in the world, not everyone can just be a poet. I think some people are born with some skills. So yes, as an aspirant, you want to tick mark those skills that you would have to be good at a particular role that you feel. So yes, I guess this is, even from a job aspirant standpoint, if they were applying for a role, be it whatever role it is, you want to ensure that you have check marked those skills, which you make you feel that you're a good fit for that, and thereby you're trying to communicate your best, basically put your best foot forward, into the world of business.
Thank you, Ranjan. Now, what was that shift? So you mentioned from the copywriting, you moved to the next field. That is a pivot, which I see. So, what are, for example, uh, some challenges, some areas where um, you experienced in that transition to a new role or function? What was some of the skill sets you gained in that journey, which have helped you in that moment?
Yeah, see, I mean, to start with, as I was, right, getting into my advertising career, I was trying to get in touch with a lot of the best agencies in Mumbai at the time, because I was working down south in Cochin. And I did get a call up from, one of the top agencies, saying that they were interested, to take it further forward. But it's that same week that I got a call up from the institute that I got admission into for my MBA. And then again, it was just more a decision that I took, saying that, listen, let's just take this opportunity to study, and you can get back to a career later. So that's the first pivot, you can say, that happened. But again, how this helped me, see, I guess at the end of the day, Phoebe, we're all communicating on a daily basis. Our day starts maybe with a prayer. Our, our day carries on with communicating when we're driving. You put the signal left and right. This is a way of communicating. You get to work, and then it's just communicating all through. So I guess, the more one is able to be with oneself and also remain connected with others, I think you're able to communicate to the best ability. And I can't say especially in HR, because every role, calls for its own degree of detailed communication. So I think in HR, there is a whole load of communication, whether it's internal or external, with employees, with stakeholders, leaders. Um, so I think it's helped me as an individual, to fine tune and make that communication, especially the written part, as concise as possible.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, uh, Ranjan, now you completed your program. Now, you, what was your decision like? Let me go to this opportunity. And when you are in that opportunity, what are some of the guidances which might have still, or not might have, still you recall was helpful when you look back?
Well, when I started working, as I said, the focus was all on theory and what you learned in business school. And as I said, you always had this in you to try to say that you knew all this theory the best. But I remember when I was working, especially I think with Citigroup, I got uh, my first curveball or bouncer or googly, you can say. They all said, "Listen, enough with the theory. Just tell me how can I make this work as a leader." Now, that
Mhm.
sort of put me, okay, so this is not just about the theoretical aspect. We've got to make this in simple terms so that a leader can put for example, a retention plan in action. So that's, I think, one of those meetings I recollect, which weren't very comfortable to be in. So, but again, those are all learnings. So I'd say that was just maybe my first experience, in terms of understanding that, business means business, and as an HR person, you need to learn to understand the knowledge, the language of business, which is basically to understand whichever business you're in, and thereby be able to put that theory into practice. Yeah, but aside from that, I guess I've been fortunate to work with, some really fantastic leaders. um, I recollect, quite a few who've sort of, helped me along the way, to sort of discover yourself. A lot of it is really about helping you discover your strengths, helping you understand where you can improve, and then add value to the business.
Mhm. Any stories which, without the name of the person, you can highlight, which was probably tough, or sometimes, uh, which when you look back was very useful.
I've had different stages of my career. Somewhere I would have been a little bit loud, and I don't know how I could have been that, because I don't never saw myself like that. But there is a particular instance, a negative one, if I can share this one, where um, okay, I've got to be careful about this one. No,
Yeah,
well, it was about,
again, you can just share the context, or
yeah. I mean, see,
without much details.
yes, yes. Well, I'd say, see, this was really about putting in place, for example, a performance management program in an organization. And that organization really had not had a very by the book process of, evaluating performance. And it became very sensitive, for the leader, who got a little bit sensitive about how does that person now get into this process of giving feedback to people whom, they've known very well. So again, it was more about trying to change the culture of the organization. So as I said, these are aspects, which help me learn, not to sort of take things a little too quickly.
Mm.
Measure the practices that you want to put in place based on the environment you're in. Evaluate the evolution that that company is at, and then take steps forward. So as I said, again, this is all learning. That discussion with the leader wasn't necessarily comfortable, but I realized that I also had to change a little bit of how I was, handling this project, rather than, telling myself, no, the other person had to look at it differently. But I guess we both, happy to say that we both made it work. quite successfully in the end.
Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, so again, what I'm learning in this process is, how our perspectives also get shaped in that process. And you also mentioned about in our journey of ordinary to extraordinary, sometimes also seeing the maturity of organization also is critical. Thank you for bringing that important point. Now I'm just moving into another aspect is, sometimes people feel the aspect that, okay, I'm stuck in this workplace. I'm not getting opportunities, or I'm not able to grow myself. No one is guiding me. Or now, when as an individual, I'm in such a space of workplace. What can they do in order to bring positive change, which may be helpful for them? Is there any thoughts which, from your experience, which you wish to share?
Well, I think the first thing is really for the person to evaluate for themselves, are they in alignment with um, that organization, the organization's goals, what they have been paid to do. The first recourse, I would say, would be actually to have a very honest discussion with the person's line manager to understand how can I be supported with either another opportunity within the firm or another learning opportunity. But yes, in my tenure, I've seen a lot of employees, back to my HR side of things, who have come to me and said that they feel stuck. So then it also is part of HR and that line manager to help that employee. But again, I guess it all really goes down to the point of what an employee's purpose is in that organization. A lot of us may not necessarily think about that because we're all busy, wanting to um, look at financials perhaps, as opposed to learning an opportunity. But I think the first recourse really is to see how best that employee can get support from the organization to either express the fact that they'd like to move either into another role, or maybe learn a new course to update themselves. And at the end of the day, if it really isn't working, then, as we say, the employee just needs to come out unstuck. You just got to make a decision to look out for an opportunity where you feel challenged. And
Hmm.
I think that's the way for people to move forward.
Wow. Yeah. So one thing I'm taking from that perspective is, that self reflection is a critical part there in that process. And maybe I just want to further explore it with you. Is there any such experiences where you have, or lessons that profoundly impacted your worldview or beliefs when you look back?
Oh, fabulous question. But yes, like you said at the start, Phoebe, self-reflection isn't that it? That's just it, right? Um, Experiences that have impacted me profoundly. I can, and again, not no names whatsoever. During my career, I've worked with so many different CEOs across my time, um, and I've I've had one or two experiences with some CEOs where the focus has just purely been so materialistic, so focused on the P&L statement, that some have even come out very clearly saying, listen, I'm not so concerned about how employees feel or have responded in a in a satisfaction or happiness survey. I just need the numbers to go up. Now,
Mm.
as an HR practitioner, or rather even I call myself a business practitioner, you frequently wonder, you go back to the business books and so much theory that you read, and there's enough research that says that an engaged employee will create an engaged customer. And you need to ensure that business understand that entirely well, without being lost in that second aspect, that no, we just need an engaged customer, as opposed to an engaged employee. So again, as I said, these are some aspects that have helped me along the way to help me choose the right kind of people you want to work with. But yes, I have to say it did change my view about how I generally look at business, and generally about how you want to be with people. The end result should just never be materialistic. I think there's just so much of time we have in the world which we do not for self reflection, which is the first part of what you said, which will then enable us to remain anchored in our core values and what we believe are true. Again, I'm not disputing that others' views may be wrong. Someone's values might very well be to be chasing the money. But at the end of the day, I think for a lot of those people, they've sort of slowed down and actually come back and told me that we our focus should really be on people who will then in turn help us to develop our customers and develop numbers and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's just something that came to mind.
Thank you. Yeah, I think again this is something which I came across and which I recently read. Sometimes in organization, sometimes there is a cost of leadership actions, which is not in the accounting books. No one sees that, so people are not aware of that. Sometimes in leadership roles, what is my impact and what is the cost I am bringing in the organization. So thank you for highlighting and the importance of looking into that server aspects in the workplace, uh, connecting to the emotionals and feelings of the people who are with us in that process. So thank you for highlighting that. My next focus question will be now what we I and from the interactions which we had, you have been uh, having different steps of career growth over the years, and that I'm saying, how do you define your success and keep that growth mindset as as you face challenges in these kind of circumstances?
Okay, so first, I really won't call myself successful, maybe from a traditional standpoint, just as a
No,
just as a pride
again,
of.
I just want to correct. Success is defined by us. You know, success is defined by us, and our success is our success, not someone else. So I am with you, and that is the extraordinary thing which we have to understand. And success is defined by how I am feeling at that moment or at that time. So, uh, and that's why I said not in a traditional sense, as you rightly pointed out. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, I mean, see, for me, um, um, so I started my career, in copywriting, as we mentioned, and then I moved into the BPO industry. I moved into IT and technology, and from IT and technology, I moved into financial services and banking. And financial services and banking, I moved into logistics and supply chain. Logistics, supply chain, I moved into education, a bit of real estate, and then I moved into branding. And then finally, I moved into services. So nothing of what I said right now is the same. So I feel personally that um, if ever I were to look back and define my success from a career standpoint, I would feel that it was the ability to have uh, been able to adapt to a lot of these different industry sectors. Um, and thankfully, hopefully, still have some really good references from each of these companies. And those really were great learnings for me. As an HR professional, um, coming to that next part, which you said, to try to maintain that growth mindset, um, I think will be to continuously try to see what else is there for one to experience, in terms of industry. Because for me, it's really been exciting, as opposed to a lot of my, friends and peers who have said or who have been in maybe similar industries. And of course, there are the perks, there are the great learnings and specialisms, that you can create for yourself being in one industry. But for myself, I feel a real barometer of excitement and success and learning for me has been to be able to taste these different industries. And the beautiful part of this is this, Phoebe, we while there's so many different industries, the employee psyche for me, remains the same. What they really want from a workplace always remains the same. There might be a few tweaks, maybe in a banking and financial services industry, as opposed to, say, a logistics industry. The former might require people with much higher qualifications, but the latter might require a lot more operational and project management experience. And for that matter, if it's the advertising and creative world, no one bothers if you're a PhD holder. They just need to know if you're creative and have the passion, for art. So that really has brought out that passion in me, where I've been able to blend myself, into these different industries, and that for me has been successful. To understand different businesses, understand different kinds of leaders, and I think, variety, as they say, is the spice of life. So if you're able to experience a lot more things, during one career, for me, that's one success point, and that hopefully keeps me with that growth mindset, like you said. As I continue on my journey.
Wow, that's beautiful. Like that blend your experience as you go. Thank you. Now, again, I know I'm conscious of the time. Thank you for now. Two more questions as we discuss today. Looking back on your journey, what are you most proud of?
Um,
I'm
oh,
not saying
that,
one or two. Again, there may be many. It will be difficult to choose one, but feel free. Whatever you like to share, one or two or three.
well, I guess, I mean, one would maybe be a slight similarity to the answer that I gave earlier, but I think I've been very proud that I've worked, with different kinds of industries, and I'd say maybe worked with different kinds of leaders, some very inspirational leaders. So I think that's maybe what I'm most proud of in terms of the experiences that I've had with these great leaders, the very varied learnings that I've had from the different industries, and hopefully, the positive impact that I've created with many of these companies. I still get calls. The other day, I got a call from, very very dear colleague of mine from Viola, who was talking about the great times. And incidentally, we actually started on a very very wrong foot at the first stage. So that's, what makes you proud. That, you see, HR is a very service oriented line. It's all about customer service, and your biggest customer is obviously the employee, and they're in your face every time in a nice way. But the point is, what brings me, greatest pride and satisfaction is there's some really tough moments that you start off with some colleagues who just don't get what your role is about, and you've got to, explain the value add, what's in it for them as a leader. And then when I look back, some of those people today are not just my ex colleagues; they're some of my best friends. And I think so. So if you ask me, what I'm most proud of is to sort of nurture those relations that have, as I said, in worst cases, started on the wrong note or the wrong foot, and then, develop them, and that we are still in touch. And I think this is what human beings are all about. That, you may have good or bad experiences, but if you're still able to connect after so many years and laugh about those instances, then I don't think there's any better success than that, at least for me.
Wow. No, I love that. And one final question. Again, based on these learning experience, what have you changed your mind on?
Based on those learnings, how I've changed my mind.
Yeah,
Okay.
something which you held as a belief, but now
Hmm.
you have shifted or have a different perspective altogether.
Great. So that is the concept of time. Now, as I mentioned at the start, um, I am sort of at a stage in my career where, I want to define what I want to do with my time. Uh, I I've worked in HR, for over a couple of decades, and I am at this point, in the midst of a fabulous career sabbatical, and I feel that um, I have learned that we all have very limited time on this planet. You can choose to work, you can choose to do pro bono, you can choose to be with family, you can choose to go play tennis. So I think some of those last things that I've said are what I'm trying to focus on. It's really to reconnect with the self, spending time with family. My little one, I think she needs me a lot. She's 10 years old, and I really feel a bit guilty that I've not been able to spend enough time with her. Chasing a lot of corporate dreams in a sense. So I think I've just been brought down to earth in a nutshell, and I've really made a pivot for myself. At the same time, definitely not saying that I love HR. I would definitely want to get back soon enough. But for the moment, this is a pivot for me, and I'm enjoying myself. And yes, as I said, it's really all about how we want to spend that time to the way that anchors us with our true values.
Thank you, Ranjan. It is a pleasure to have you and be part of the From Ordinary to Extraordinary LinkedIn Live. And you have given beautiful message for all out there listening. And thank you, audience, for joining us today and listening. And also, when you are moving in your journey from ordinary to extraordinary, as Ranjan mentioned, enjoy the time and be in that process. Enjoy and reflect often. So, with that, I like to thank Ranjan for taking his valuable time, and I will be stopping this session right now.